right, and we're live. So welcome to Upturned Table. Today, I thought we would do an unearthing. So I spent a fortune retrieving some of my lost RPG treasures, and this was one of them. And this is, I guess we're starting strong because this is the one that was probably in the best condition. So this is a first edition printing of the West End Games Star Wars role-playing game. And it's in pretty decent shape. The corner, there's a few corners a little dinged, and yeah, it's not looking too bad. Not super yellow inside. And I think this didn't get as much use. I think I had a friend with a copy of this, so I didn't end up needing mine as often because I think this sat on the shelf. Because when we take a look at some of my other stuff, you'll see it was well used. But yeah, let's take a look at the back. So yeah, this was released, what was this, 87, I believe, 1987. Let's take a quick look. Yeah, there we go. Yes, 1987. Yep, first printing, October. Yeah, even they have some nice color. And this is really, really nostalgic because it's got the movie stills in it, like back in the day when they would, you know, with a property, they wouldn't have an artist redraw stuff that then they owned. They would actually, as part of the license, have like stills from the movies or TV show or whatever it was. So that's got some great nostalgia. All right. So the Star Wars role-playing game. And yeah, so this was just 10 years after the original film was released. So they made a big deal about that, and now it's been, and I think in 2018, I think they were a little bit late, but in 2018, they did a box set, like a reprint of this book and the source book in a sleeve, in a nice edition to kind of bring things together. And I'm not sure if it was this original first edition or if it was the revised version. I think it was actually this first edition. So experience the vast space and sweeping power of the greatest space fantasy of all time. Struggle against the awesome might and evil galactic empire, the faster-than-light spacecraft. Trade blaster fire with Imperial stormtroopers. Fight lightsaber duels, and tap the mystic force which binds all living things together. Explore a galaxy of billions of suns. Enjoy each with wonders and dangers of its own. This font is confusing me. A universe of dire peril, where rebels fight desperately against the eternal night of the Imperial oppression. The Star Wars role-playing game will face overwhelming odds, hard choices, impossible challenges, but if you meet them bravely, you will triumph, for the Force will always be with you. Nice. Sorry, the glare there. So inside, so 24 character templates. So yeah, template-based character creation, which lets you choose a role and start playing quickly. Innovative and sophisticated yet simple rules for blasters, lightsabers, combat, the force powers of the Jedi, starships, combat, and more. How to design thrilling adventures, maintain a Star Wars atmosphere, and keep players excited. An introductory solo adventure, that's right. A complete first adventure for 2 to 6 players, and many short adventure ideas that the game master can develop themselves. Full color pages with memorable pictures from the movies, plus many illustrations that have some never before published from Lucasfilm's archives. I'm sure since then they've been mightily abused. Get your dice, get your friends together. We get ready. May the Force be with you, for the fate of the galaxy depends on you. Wow, remember this whole attitude back in the day? Wow, yeah, this is a piece of it, and this is a real interesting piece of that time where they were done. The films were done. What, 83? The last film was released, so they were still summer re-releases and things were still going on, promoting Star Wars. And yeah, I think, we still had coming like the Ewok Adventure stuff. And there was that Droids Saturday morning cartoon, but this was in that drought from the late 80s, all the way to through the 90s, where there wasn't Star Wars content. So this book, this game, ended up being, and I think I even read on the Wikipedia, they said this was the beginning of the extended universe. So the Star Wars EU like basically started here because everybody that was writing and contributing content, the only other sources previous to that were the Marvel comics. I think the Marvel comics went for a while and added new characters and things. But the development that for the source books and things that happened for this game was actually the roots of the EU. And they even said that when Timothy Zahn was doing the Heir to the Empire books, so that was another like drought time. Like he did that trilogy of books, and people got all excited because it was actually somewhat interesting Star Wars content. But they sent him a box. West End Games sent him a box of their source books to use as the basis. Like use this as a start because people have already done a bunch of work fleshing things out. So yeah, that's amazing. And I think this was very early days West End Games. I think previous to this they had Ghostbusters, I think. So I think Ghostbusters came out in 1984, so maybe they got the license to that pretty early. I can check on that. But yeah, they're still saying this is also early days of what is a role-playing game. So in this game, you and other players take part of characters in the Star Wars universe. You decide how your character acts. A game master describes what you see, establishes the plot, and acts as a referee. Together, you create your own Star Wars saga as you play. And that was insanely exciting, back in the day, we can keep doing this. Like we can, because, this is basically a continuation. Once you don't play with your action figures anymore, which everybody in the 70s was doing, you were writing your own stories and playing your own characters. There was a lot of, we used to bring, like, I think I had a bread bag, like a plastic bread bag with a twist tie on it, just full of Star Wars figures that I would haul with me, to school in elementary school. And so that's what we did. So this was like a natural extension of that. So it really fit perfectly. And and they say here, D6s, you'll need D6s, pencil and paper. So yeah, D6 based game. So very easy to find, similar to Tunnels and Trolls and some of the more rational games where, you can just scavenge your Yahtzees and your Monopolies to get some D6s to play the game. So let's take a look through. And yeah, I think I got a little bit of glue seeping through, but other than that, surprisingly good, in good shape. All right, this was interesting as well. So, remember this is 87, so this is before any other content aside from some Marvel comics, was going. So they needed to set the stage and kind of get you in the right headspace for what this world was. And if you'd just seen the movies or a few of the movies or, whatever, I thought this was an interesting thing that they've kind of moved away from. The tone of this is pretty nice. So of course they start with the, and it's, angled like the crawl. Fortunately, it's not that yellow, crazy yellow font. But of course they have to. And that was a strange thing for video games at that time, is they all started with an unskippable crawl. I think starting from, PlayStation and like, Nintendo 64 and everything. Every Star Wars game had a crawl to set up the game story, and it was unskippable, and it had blasting MIDI, Star Wars theme. So yeah, that was, that got pretty brutal and repetitive after a while. So a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the old Republic was the Republic of legend, greater than distance or time. Once under the wise rule of the Senate and the protection of the Jedi Knights, the Republic throve, the past tense of thrive, and grew. But as often happens when wealth and power pass beyond the admirable and attain the awesome, when then appear those evil ones who have greed to match. So it was with the Republic at its height, like the greatest of trees, able to withstand any external attack. The Republic grew rotten from within, and through the danger, and though the danger was not visible from the outside, aided and abetted by restless, power-hungry individuals within the government and the massive organs of commerce, the ambitious Senator Palpatine caused himself to be elected President of the Republic. He promised to reunite the disaffected among the people and restore the remembered glory of the Republic. Once secure in office, he declared himself the emperor, shutting himself away from the populace. The cries of the people for justice did not reach his ears. Having exterminated through treachery and deception the Jedi Knights, guardians of justice in the galaxy, the imperial governors and bureaucrats prepared to institute a reign of terror among the disheartened worlds of the galaxy. Many used the imperial forces and the name of the increasingly isolated emperor to further their own political ambitions, but a small number of systems rebelled at these new outrages, declaring themselves opposed to the new order. They began the great battle to restore the old republic. From the beginning, they were vastly outnumbered, but the systems held in thraft by the emperor, by the systems. Those first dark days, it seemed certain the bright flames of the resistance would be as extinguished before it could cast the light of new truth across the galaxy of oppressed, beaten peoples. The galaxy into which you are born. The galaxy of, big color, double page there. Nice. They got some really nice nice images of the Star Wars role-playing game. So yeah, that's really interesting. We don't have, like, that's the prequel, you know, a version of the prequel stories, and we didn't really have that yet. I think there was some, that might have been already like kind of later 90s, the Dark Horse series, where they would talk about the Emperor's clones and all of that stuff. But this was the first like early days of what the Clone Wars and the Knights of the Old Republic kind of stuff was, because we didn't have that yet. This is 87, so yeah, none of that existed yet. And some great Ralph McQuarrie art. So they had access to a lot of good stuff. Nice glossy pages. So the book's broken up into the player section, the first 3 chapters, Game Master section, 7 chapters, and then the adventure section. Nice. And this is very interesting because so you can't get these books on Drive-Thru RPG. I think the re-release, that anniversary re-release, was the last kind of way you could get these books. But I'll tell you after we go through this where they do exist. And I don't know why everybody isn't just playing this game, because they haven't come up with anything more satisfying than this. I think this was a great way to kind of represent and play this game, and to play it quickly, to not have, the drawn out Fantasy Flight style, life paths and character choices, and then that crazy dice system that just force you, to buy many copies of their dice. But the fact that this, and this was incredibly well supported. West End Games had this for a while. There was a revised edition. So I think by the time West End Games was already doing prequel content. I think a lot of prequel content was produced for this revised version, the second edition. And there's over 100, maybe 140, 150 source books for this game. So an insane amount of content was produced. So, really amazing that that much was done, and they just kind of ignored it. Nobody tried to get the rights to that and tried to keep that, active, because Wizards of the Coast took over the publishing. I think they went to a D20 system, and then, of course, Fantasy Flight and their wacky Genesis dice. So in the introduction, join the rebellion. So, implying that you're playing rebels, because that was really the only desirable thing to do in this Star Wars, I guess bounty hunters, but once upon a time. So join the rebellion and save the galaxy. Get ready to experience the vast scope and sweeping power of the greatest space fantasy of all time. In the Star Wars role-playing game, you take the part of a character in the Star Wars universe struggling against the awesome might of the evil galactic empire. So, and then just talk about roleplay, your characters, and game masters. Yeah, they give you nice. You should read the player section, so pages 6 through 24, and also look at the character templates. And then the rest of the book, when you have time, the Game Master should read the Rebel Breakout adventure. And what you'll need to play: dice, so at least six-sided dice, pencils and paper, and of course there's no dice in this book. And then supplements. Yeah, this is where they really went crazy. Supplements will give you background material. The Star Wars source book describes the spaceships, equipment, and aliens of the Star Wars universe. Look at that. Nice movie stills. So character creation. So template-based. So there are 24 templates in this book, and of course that's what a lot of the source books produced, is, covering every possible alien. Every action figure released probably had a template. So each describes the character who fits the Star Wars universe. It provides basic game information for the character, the numbers you use when the character does something in the game, as well as background material and the character's motives. So look them over, choose one you like. Yeah, it's amazing how quickly, because we played this, we just did a one-shot with the OSR group, and it's amazing how fast you get up and running with this game in like a satisfying way. I thought that was really a good idea to not make things too difficult. So a character template is only an outline, and you have to flesh it out. For example, there are a lot of smugglers in the Star Wars universe. Han Solo is one. That's why we've included a smuggler template, but every smuggler is a little different. So when you decide to be a smuggler, you must decide exactly what your character is like. So, and even if another player chooses the same template, there can be two in the same group, because they're going to be different. You make different choices. However, a group should be balanced. Every character has different abilities. Some are good at flying ships, some are good at hand-to-hand combat, and some know about the planet and alien races. Some have Jedi powers. All right, copying templates. So the recorded information, you record the information, your equipment, appearance, skills, wound status, and so on. Yes, so the all the templates are in the back of the book. Yeah, these guys. Isn't that great? Look at that. Oh, yeah, super nostalgic. Yes, then they've got to be, these have got to be drifting around in PDF form. I'm sure there's a huge archive of them, but look at that. Wow. Lots of nostalgia. All right. So customizing the template. So the die codes. So everything, this is the number of D6s. So yeah, everything was designated with a number and then a D after it for stat value. So every skill and attribute had so you're adding, a number of dice. So a D6 dice pool. It's great that that was resurrected by Free League, because this really is a fun system. And yeah, and then of course, then plus a value. So some values are a number of dice plus a flat number. And so attributes and skills. Nice. And choosing skill codes. So each attribute has a list of skills printed beneath it. A skill starts with the same code as the attribute that it's printed, where it's printed, and then you have 7 dice to allocate to skills. And then no skill can be more than 2 dice. And then special rules for force. Yeah, force points. All characters begin with 1 force point. And then your equipment and character connections. This is another, 87. Yeah, this is kind of early days thing where you're creating like how the characters, are related or socially kind of linked to each other. So assisting the role play, and a great thing, a little example of an exchange. So this is already days where they're not making how to run the game a total mystery, but giving you some examples. Oh, and then talking about the character connections, and then some examples, relatives, and then employees, joint ownership of a ship, traveling companions, mentors, rivals. Same planet, classmates. And aren't there any talkative scouts or humble nobles or cautious pilots? Sure there are. But yeah, the template kind of pushes you one way or another. This is a template. Character templates make choosing a character fast and easy. But the background write-up, if it isn't quite what the character you want to play, go ahead and change things. Your character is not restricted. It's only restricted by your imagination. So go ahead and rewrite the background. If none of the templates, even modified, fits your character idea, you can even design your own template. See page 81. Then you get started. And then the bare bones of the system. So attributes should, I think it's not glossy pages. So yeah, I think you can see from here. So attributes and skills, which do you use? And then opposed roles. So things that have been around for a while. And then the difficulty number, how many successes you need. Yeah, so you're rolling all of your D6s. And the higher, in the opposed rolls, it's just the higher value. Higher value wins. And then, yeah, you're trying to beat everything, so not opposing to. So how long does it take? Preparing running runes, using more than one skill, reaction skills, dice codes. Nice. Okay. So skills supersede attributes, so you only use an attribute when there's no skill. Okay. Nice. And reaction skills, so dodge, melee, parry. And then combat action segments. At the beginning of the combat round, each player must declare what the character is doing, whether it's moving, and if so, where, and then what non-reaction skills they're using. And then initiative. So no matter exactly when during the action segment a particular character gets to act, everyone moves and shoots or uses some skill. The only time it matters is when someone uses a skill that will affect another character. So when two characters are doing things that affects each other, make a skill or attribute roll for both. If the character is moving, making a dexterity roll, there's no need. There's no skill code for movement. So the higher roll goes first. An example, and then stance. Yeah, there's prone and shooting. Dodges, archaic and unusual weapons, hand-to-hand. Grenades. So the end of every adventure may assign you skill points. So the better you did in the adventure. So there's your XP, so you can add. So increasing 2D costs 2 skill points. Yeah, so a very simple way to improve your character, not having a lot of calculation or a lot of anything extra. Powers of the Force and the Jedi Code. You may not kill except in self-defense. You may not act for personal gain. And you must never act from hatred, anger, fear, or aggression. And the lightsabers. I think they did. I mean, I guess, just like with a lot of the Star Wars MMOs and games and things, people can go right for the lightsabers. But I think they did a good job of making the other roles desirable as well. So everybody just didn't want to be a Jedi Knight, or they made the system balanced enough that it didn't feel too overpowering. So control, sense, alter, and then of course your lightsaber. So an introduction to role playing. Oh, so here's the solitaire adventure. Oh, it's right in the middle here. So yeah, so just after a brief explanation of the rules, they go right into we'll give it a try and do the solo. So you'll be rolling this. So similar to tunnels and trolls, there's entries. So go to this entry, and you're using the game system. Nice. Right there. Oh, that's great. Yeah, right after the character creation. I didn't remember that being the case. That's really great. And then a little example of another role-playing exchange, and then some more advice for the players. So playing a role, remember the point of the game is to tell a satisfactory story and create your own movie. The game master provides the plot and opposition, but a movie needs to have snappy dialogue, interesting characters, and providing that is up to you. Get your snappy dialogue ready. So every character has a role, every player has a role, and an actor is expected to stay in his role as long as he's on stage, to speak the same words with the same accent in the same way. Consistency. Interesting that they're emphasizing, yeah. So playing a role can be a lot of fun. Before you begin, give some serious thought to your character. And read over the background. Try to imagine yourself as the character. And then banter. Mechanical explanation of banter. Just, back and forth with the characters. Cracking jokes, cracking wise in the Star Wars universe. Personality, cooperation, and then you're all set. Yeah, so that is a really quick, and that even has the, solo rules in it. So this and the templates, and that's all the players need to get going. And then we have the Game Master section with another big old black and white emperor. So game mastering. What exactly does a game master do? They present the adventure for his or her players to enjoy. And everybody has to say, I have a bad feeling about this. Nice. Playing non-player characters, sustaining a suspension of disbelief, setting the tone. Oh yeah, this is interesting. Let's see what they say about how does something feel Star Warsy. So there's one thing you have to do. You must keep the game in the Star Wars spirit. The stories you create with your players must be ones which could fit comfortably on screen with the Star Wars film logo at the end. And the Disney, and Disney as well now. So if they aren't, they may well be still you may still have fun playing with them, but they aren't really playing Star Wars. So how can you make the game feel like the movies? Here's some suggestions. So the banter, of course. Encourage your players to talk in character to each other. Tie things into the movies, wherever possible. Given a chance to use something from the movies or the adventure. And it's such a small amount of things at this point. It's pretty funny, like just 3 movies and maybe some comic book content, and you're going to be making references. Now it's like completely out of control. There's so much content. There's like some things that, most people will have no idea what you're even talking about. So he's a droid, very much like R2. So put in minor characters in places where you can. So for the game master, so aliens, the players must frequently deal with non-player characters, which, why use normal-looking humans when you can use aliens? Science fictional setting, when the characters walk into a bar in Star Wars, it does not look like a hangout down the street. There are aliens and people snorting some strange colored gases. Things in the corner shaking itself with a handheld electric sparker and giggling. All right, come up with your own death sticks. You realize they really aren't in Kansas after all. Grandiose scale, Star Wars is big. They don't blow up bridges. They blow up planets. Pseudo-science fiction, scientific gobbledygook. Ships don't have radar. They have sensors. Robots don't have motors. They have servo mechanisms. Repairmen don't use wrenches. They use hydrospanners. So never call something a car when you can call it a land speeder. So using Earth terms is uninteresting, huh? So 8 useful things to remember for game mastering. You can't learn everything all at once, so understand the rules, expect to extend the rules, expect to be wrong sometimes, be fair, be impartial, be prepared, and be entertaining. Ham it up. And then just relax. Does that sound like a lot to do? Just relax. And then chapter 2, so attributes and skills. So yeah, description of, basically the dexterity knowledge, mechanical, perception, strength, and technical. So interesting, there's no social. All of that comes from role play. So that was something we were looking at just recently. I think it was Mothership. Yeah, Mothership did the same thing. That's right. When we were going through Mothership, they don't have any stats for anything social. They just say that's the role play part. There's no mechanics. Just work it out. So yeah. I don't know. I think there should be some to kind of, when you're dealing with NPCs, I guess, the GM can be the arbiter of everything, but it's kind of fun to have roles for social reactions. I like, having the characters make a roll to see how something bounced off and, not roadblocking them, but, giving kind of a degree of how effective that was is kind of fun and takes it out of everybody's hands, makes it a little bit more surprising and random. So when to make a roll, which roll do you use? So the difficulty numbers, so very easy, 5, 10 is easy, 15 moderate, and 20 is difficult, and very difficult is 30, because you're probably not rolling. It's rare to be rolling, 5 or 6 dice and getting all 6s. So yes. And so tell them or not. Should the players know what the difficulty is? Sure, if you want him to, but sometimes keep the player guessing. The task is much easier or more difficult, and they know nothing about it. So how long does it take? And then role-playing it out. In many cases, a skill can be used to resolve something, but it would be more fun if you role-played it out. Interpreting roles. So sometimes you want to know how well a player did, whether he did great or really botched it. Use the number he rolls to indicate the performance. So you don't want to get too bogged down in details. Yeah, so I guess that's a nice, it works out the both ways. It's just smaller numbers, but when you're rolling d6s and you're getting successes, like that number can be kind of like an index, and then this can just be, by how much they beat, like to what degree they beat the difficulty in the roll. So I guess it's pretty much, pretty much the same thing, but giving it gives a little more granularity, I guess, to how far they went beyond, the difficulty. Let's see. So dexterity. So the blank line under dexterity is used for a custom dexterity skill. Characters frequently learn additional weapon skills. Most common weapons in Star Wars are blasters or melee weapons. So blasters, brawl, parry, dodge, grenade, heavy weapons, melee, parry, and then knowledge. Oh, that's good. Yeah, they're giving some examples. Common knowledge would be easy. Moderate would be something that's no secret. Difficult is something that requires specialized knowledge. Very difficult, something only an expert would know. Nice. And so what the score means: alien races, languages. Oh, that's interesting too. There's a lot of like little examples after each kind of topic. They or I guess there's skills after each of the skills. They're giving the some examples of how that would work in play. It's making it a little crowded, but not bad. Yeah, for the presentation. Mechanical for your vehicles. Oh, that's why the pages are hard to turn, because we're coming up to color. Perception, noticing things. And some nice color stills. Look at that. Yeah, I like the posed, there's stuff that's taken from the movies, and then there's the posed stuff for promotion. Star Wars had a lot of those that were famously reproduced again and again and again. That looks like a magazine ad. A challenge as big is not for everyone. It's a fake ad for the Imperial Navy. Nice. So that's right. That's why it looks like a magazine ad. Oh yeah, look at that. They do little. This is such 80s cheese, the way that they do this stuff. So yeah, of course they have to have a caption. They can't just have a photo. They have to have a caption. So a faithful Wookiee companion may be a smuggler's best friend, but a blaster comes a close second. Good astrogation and piloting skills often come in handy too. And the story of a hero is a harrowing one. A story of fear, struggle, terrible danger, and personal loss. But the hero perseveres and stays true to his dreams. He gains in skill, power, and in wisdom, or he just hides and drinks milk from a beached monster. It's nice. Yeah, so some thematic, if you were looking through a magazine, perhaps, in the galaxy, you may come across the recruitment ads for the Empire. Oh, nice. Here's some of the pre-production stuff. And then desperate struggle against the Empire. The rebellion is always short on material. It relies on whatever equipment it can muster, pushing weapons and starships to their limits. Nice. It's great they have those little color sections. So yeah, here's command and con and gambling. Yeah, there's an example after everything. That's interesting. Yeah, nice. And maybe to give some flavor, like that flat, weird Star Wars way characters talk thing. Want to build a lot of that in there. Hide. Taking in the strength skills. Climbing and jumping, stamina, swimming, lifting, technical skills. Oh, there's got to be one more page. There is. Oh, sorry. Oh, multiple workers, blank skills, computer programming and robot repair, droid programming and repair, medicine, repulsor, lift, craft repair, and then force skills. 3 force skills. Yeah, they already said control, sense, and alter. So the force skills are on page 66. So combat, advantages and disadvantages, sequencing, so decision segment, declaration, first action segment, second action segment, and subsequent. So for decision, decide what all the non-player characters are going to do and let the players decide what they will do next, and then go around the table and ask each player what he wants to do. Then tell them what the NPCs are doing. The first action segment, each character of whom an action has been declared takes the first action. And if a character declared more than one action, they can take a second action. Any character for whom only one action was declared does nothing, but they still may dodge or parry. And then subsequent, any characters declared more than 2 actions, additional action segment occurs until all characters have performed all their declared actions. So declaration. When asked, the character must tell you what he is doing. Don't let the player get away with saying, I'll move. Make him specify where. Don't let them hesitate. Nice. And the one, so some players, see the player characters where the lowest perception is to your left. Get over here. You got low perception. Get on your left. That's fun though, just to literally have the seating, help you remember order instead of having to write it on index cards or whatever. Although once people get seated at a table, I think players are not anxious to move once they get comfortable. Actions and reactions, movement, stance, fire combat. Yeah, some more. So point blank is 5, short. Oh, yeah. So the distance is your difficulty. And then damage codes for the weapons, armor. Yeah, so armor has a value as well. to roll. So armor reduces the dexterity, but the same amount it increases his strength. Keeping track of damage. So anytime a character is fired upon, he may dodge. If he declares the use of other skills in the round, the use of the dodge decreases by 1 die. Oh, that's cool. So yeah, you still get to do it, but it becomes harder to dodge because you're preoccupied. The character is fired upon but more than once in the same action segment. His dodge roll is added to all fire difficulty numbers. Dodging one segment has no effect on the fire for the next segment. Setting blasters on stun, so kill or wound or stun, and then drawing. Character does not have a blaster in his hand, he has to draw it. So, setting a blaster on stun, drawing a weapon reduces all skills by 1d in the same round. Just walk around with it in your hand always. So hand to hand, resolving damage. Yeah, so lightsabers, slightly differently. First of all, you have to use your force skills. A character with a lightsaber skill attack can attack with it, but it's not his melee skill. The other thing, you can parry with a lightsaber. Characters can be used to parry melee as well. Yeah, lots of parrying options with a lightsaber. Grenades and thermal detonators. They have to make them insanely deadly. That seems to be. Yeah, so you have to roll to hit. If you fail to hit, then it does not mean that it has no effect. Instead, it means the grenade scatters. 3 steps of using a grenade. Determine where the thrower succeeds, determine where the grenade hits, and then determine how much damage. It went behind you. Hitting characters, damage. Optional combat rules, so using maps, using miniatures. Yeah, we'll get to that. That was something that immediately happened. Movement, miscellaneous, so counting ranges, modifying difficulty. Yeah, so when using a map, the distance, also 1 square is usually 2 meters. Surprise and damage modifiers. So hold-up blasters, sporting blaster, blaster pistol, heavy blaster, hunting blaster. Big range, and probably big range of damage. Black powder pistol, no way. Yes, you can go pretty primitive. So black powder, a crossbow, a longbow, a musket, a rifle. I totally forgot that they had black powder in here. And then the bowcaster. Gaffy sticks, lightsabers, vibro axe, vibro blade. Some wound effects, yeah, healing and wounds. Okay, so reduced by 1, so the penalty applies. Oh, okay. So when you're wounded, the character can act, but they have a... so incapacitated or unable to act. And then med packs. Rejuvenation tanks. Yeah, back to tanks. Great. Natural healing. There's healing tables there. Falling collision. And then starships. Getting a ship, booking passage. New trips, pirates and privateers. And then here's all of the data for the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter. I can't believe they did do metal miniatures, and they did make all the ships in metal miniatures as well. Imperial patrols. Running ships, and then here's the stats for the Falcon, a stock light freighter, an Imperial cruiser frigate. So it looks like they have crew numbers, passenger numbers, cargo capacity, consumables, hyperdrive multiplier, nav computer, sublet engines, how many dice the hull is, and then the weapons and their dice. Oh, proton torpedoes and 9 dice. Nice. Running Imperials. An Imperial Customs frigate makes a good obstacle. And then routes, hyperspace routes. Passage times, backup hyperdrives, X-Wing fighters. Many small craft, including Imperial TIE fighters, are not equipped with hyperdrives. Astrogation. So standard duration of travel, modifying those durations. Mishaps. Bounce too close to a... come out of hyperspace. And yeah, so hyperdrive cutoff, off course, radiation fluctuations, Minox. Just the random Minox chewing your power cables. Close call, collisions, and then other disasters. So making rolls to serve a plot. Nice. So spaceship combat. What this combat system is not. So the combat system is designed to handle small space battles. It is not designed for grand fleet battles. Yeah, they showed some bigger fleet pictures. So yeah, just dogfight rules basically. And speed and pursuit, or doing nothing. Your gunnery skills, your evasion skills, multiple skill use, shield attempts, damage attempts, torpedoes and missiles, multi-ship combat, one ship against multiple opponents, multiple ships against multiple. It's getting bigger, it's getting bigger. Ships and personal combat, and then improving your ships. So characters can spend skill points to improve their ships as well. And then the force. All right. So force points. So everybody begins with 1 point. At any time during the game, they may announce he is spending a force point. They cannot spend a force point in an adventure more than they possess. If the character has 3 points, he can only spend 3. On a combat round in which the character spends a force point, all his skill attribute codes are doubled. This means he can take twice as many actions, and his chances of success are much higher. Spending a force point can have 4 possible results: doing wrong, being unheroic, being heroic, and being heroic and at all dramatically appropriate moments. So getting points back. So players' total maximum number of points he can spend in an adventure. Characters may wind up getting more points. Spend it back at the end of the adventure, then only one. So players return points are returned to the player to be used in the next adventure. So yeah, it kind of functions as a luck or a fate kind of point. Force points and bad guys. Dark side force points. Be careful. Players, become attached to their characters at times, so losing a character can be traumatic. Having a character return as a villain is especially painful. So whenever characters use the Force in an immoral way, they gain a dark side point. You should record this. Whenever a character gains dark side points, they should roll 1d6. And if the die roll is less than the number of dark side points the character has accumulated, the character immediately goes over to the dark side. No. Yeah, that's atonement. The lasting, deep meditation. A character may shed himself of his stain of darkness. Yeah, so very simple. Yeah, very simple dark side mechanic. And I like that. Yeah, everybody. I think there were some aliens though that can't utilize force points. I seem to remember that from the session, but everyone gets at least a force point to spend. But I think there's some that can't. They're like force immune or whatever. Jedi in the Force, finding a master, the dark side. Jedi code, and then training your Jedi. Studying characters and Force skills. So for the character templates are printed with Force skills: alien, student of the Force, a failed Jedi, minor Jedi, and that quixotic Jedi. Their studying skills are a 1D. Note the quixotic Jedi only knows 1 Force skill. He knows sense, not control. And then taking on pupils, using the 3 skills, combining the 3 skills, and then the difficulties. Dark side modifications. So when a character with dark side points uses a Force skill, the skill code is increased by 1d per dark side point. Oh, so it makes you more powerful, but also you can fall more easily. Resisting Force powers. When a power is used to affect another player against his will, the target resists with his perception. Keeping power up. Sometimes the character wishes to keep the power up, then using continuously operating for long periods of time. If you're stunned or wounded, any power stops. So you can keep going, I guess, protection or holding something up, holding rocks above your head for extended periods of time, the Jedi Code, and then lightsabers. Yeah, can parry hand to hand. It means either the sense skill or his melee parry skill. When he uses to parry, the sense is a reaction skill. So control powers, control pain, remain conscious, hibernation trance, accelerate healing, nice, contort and escape, and detoxify poison. And our color section again, and some quotes here. Together we can rule the galaxy. So until he gains mastery of the Force, the Jedi in training is poised always on the balance between the dark and light side. It's a dangerous time when you will be tempted by the dark side. Oops, sorry. Nice. Empire stills. Or I guess this was that's some of the first. Far-flung starships or spaceships battling across the world, the void, splendiferous vistas of alien worlds. Heroes struggling desperately against the mighty forces of the entire galaxy. Liberty endangered by the forces of tyranny. There are many things in which Star Wars is made of. And I don't know where this where this still comes from. I love these posed promo shots. That's great. Now stand in front of the styrofoam ice and look scared. Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, I think that was used everywhere. I think that was the cover of the story of Star Wars, that first like record LP that was basically the, telling the story. But yeah, this was everywhere. All right, so you're controlling disease, absorbing and dissipating energy with your force powers, and then your sense powers, receptive telepathy, magnify senses, life sense, instinctive astrogation. Wow, you can use the force to astrogate. Then control plus sense gives you projective telepathy, far seeing. Alter powers are telekinesis, injure, kill, crush throat. Control and alter powers, control another's pain, inflict pain, and return to consciousness. And place in hibernation trance, accelerate another's healing, detoxify. Oh, so already, yeah, that's right, because they did do, that was the weird thing in the sequel trilogies, is suddenly like this force healing thing is like this super, but I guess it was in the RPG all along. Yeah, detoxify another, control another's disease, transfer force. So they were just playing the RPG, I guess, in the sequel trilogy. So control, sense, and alter. So affect mind and telekinetic kill and beyond. So what further mysteries lie unlocked? I guess powerful healing would be the thing. Wondrous lore died with the ancient Jedi, and the mystic powers wielded by the Honorable Order are forever lost unless some remnant or record of them should be discovered. And then other characters. So here's their guide for making templates. So there's 24 templates, but they'll give you a range. So if you want to make one, decide what the character would be like. A smuggler failed Jedi, decide his or her attributes. Each force skill is 1D. Write a background. And decide what equipment they would logically start with. So generating from scratch. Once you've made up a new template, using it to generate characters is easy enough. Yeah, you allocate your 7 dice. Aliens, what do they breathe? What do they eat? What kind of environment are they from? How do they reproduce? Yeah, that's so important. How do they reproduce? What kind of culture do they have? Organized. Do they respect scholars, warriors, artists? What's the government like? And then droids. Background programming, background droid programming, rules for droid skills. Nice, droids and combat. Droids as player characters, and so none of the templates is for a droid character. We didn't include a template because droids work very differently. So yeah, but they'll give you some guidelines to make them. And then stock characters, a standard storm. Yeah, here's your stock NPC: a standard stormtrooper, a standard human, standard specialist, and then using the templates. And then running the adventure. So yeah, here's the adventure section already. So packaged adventures versus homebrew. So in game mastering, the first few times published adventures will get you a better grip on how to run the game. A published adventure gives you a good model for how to organize and prepare materials. Designing an adventure from scratch can take quite a lot of work. Even if you don't use a published adventure exactly as written, you can find ideas. So preparing for a session, read over the adventure, make sure you have copies of everything you need. Have some dice. That's a good idea. Invite several friends. Get something to eat and drink. These are the rules. Session length. Expect to spend 3 to 5 hours playing. At least they're being honest. A short adventure, 1 or 2 episodes, may take less. Sessions can take up to 12 hours. It's not unheard of. And it's a brutal amount of time. So introducing the characters. Getting things rolling. So, oh yeah, their adventure in this book provides a script for your players to read together. Oh, that's right. That's right. The pre-written stuff. Yeah, that's right. So they impart important information. They help set the mood. Yeah, that's different in this. And then in media res, starting the adventure in the action, maintaining a lively place. The Empire shows up. New information. Emergency. Time is passing. So, and then I have a bad feeling about this. The unexpected. Don't get bogged down in details. Yeah, dissolve to fade to black. Yeah, that was something that it seemed. I'm not sure if it was the group or the Fantasy Flight. Star Wars seemed to like want you to get bogged down in stuff. Yeah, that slowed things down and made some of the decision making kind of weird. Maintaining direction, so improvise wildly. Our hour of need. Media res again. So one of the advantages of starting the adventure in media res is you never have to worry about heading the players the right way. They're just being chased. Players will be players. Script immunity. Heroes don't die until the final reel, and usually not then, and the heroes don't fail unless, at least not badly, not permanently. So the most important moment of the adventure comes around. For dramatic reasons, a character must succeed or must fail, or the story is not satisfying. Avoiding anticlimax. Now what do? You have 2 alternatives. First, you can fudge things. Is that cheating? And then, where's second? And second, you can use the failure as a dramatic advantage. Keeping the players in the dark. Make the game satisfying. You must maintain dramatic tension. If they realize they have script immunity, or I guess plot armor is what we call it now, they will always bumble through things. When to fudge. Oh, they're encouraging fudging. Interesting. Wow. Star Wars is a pro-fudge game. When can they fail? When you do need to fudge things, you have fudge ready-made. Force points. Oh, okay. Yeah, so they're saying encourage them to use their force points. Fudge with the force. Heroes never die. They just get replaced by younger actors. Penalty short of death. Maintaining atmosphere. So evil, and then the scope. Make funny noises. Oh, here's some examples of funny noises. Oh boy. Props. A physical item they can fondle. Yeah, this is surprisingly, for role-playing, like giving a player something to fidget with was surprisingly effective in our alien game, and then winding things down. A cliffhanger or an intense moment in the adventure. Yeah, so it's okay. It's okay. Time to go home. Right on a cliffhanger. Skill points. So yeah, that's their XP. So award it by how well they did overall, how well each player did himself, and whether they cooperated or bickered, and whether they amused you and each other, and whether they played in character. Correlating events. And then fixed awards and increasing costs. So yeah, it only costs 3 skill points to increase to 3d6, but 6 to 66. However, point awards for each adventure do not increase. Oh, that's right. So as the characters scale up, an adventure is worth 3 to 10 points, but plus some bonus points, maybe 15 at the very most. That doesn't change. That doesn't change as the characters get better. This means the characters get better; they advance more slowly. Makes sense. Some novice get better faster. Yeah, so I guess that works. So designing the adventures, so kind of defining space opera, so not hard sci-fi, super science, literature. So space opera, it gets a lot of action, gets a lot of combat, it pits good against evil, and it's often cliched. Sidekicks are almost always trustworthy, dialogue is always snappy, bad guys are always evil. It happens on a grand scale. And then so for your outline, your adventure idea, and then episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a conclusion. So episodes. Episode 1, solved with gunplay. One episode. Oh yeah, so what you should have in your outline. Gunplay, ship-to-ship combat, a chase requiring interaction with NPCs, and then 1 episode requiring problem solving. So, non-play characters, distinctive appearance, distinctive speech, definitive objectives, and then their skills. So, yeah, NPCs, motivation, information source, obstacle, comic relief, and then twists. Always a good idea. In most adventures, the players have a definite enemy. The bait and switch is a common twist. The mission, in fact, is a trap. The mission is based on incomplete or sketchy, out-of-date information. The player's true antagonists are not who they think they are. And crucial information is unavailable. Then the settings. So poor setting, the ship, the gold, and the controls look weird. Good setting. The ship is black, streamlined ovid, with several bulges hither and yon. There we go. That's a good setting. Motivation, the characters. Once you've decided an outline, you've sketched out a few interesting NPCs. We thought about what's next. You need to decide why your player characters are going to get involved. Preparing the adventure. Scripts and maps and props. And the last thing you decide is the rewards. And yeah, they talked about the range of skill points already. So yeah, we looked at that really excellent guide for Mothership and how to construct adventures, and like literally showing pages of a journal and how to lay things out, and kind of just a system for structuring things. So this is, of course, early days. But like 40 years ago. But yeah, things have come a long way. I mean, this feels very rudimentary to what the level of advice and planning for game masters is now. So here's the Rebel Breakout adventure, and yeah, the summary. So is there the script here? Yeah. So here's all the. Yeah, so each of the episodes, a Minot nest, of course, that's a go-to. some a disaster table falling into a pit. The final fight. All right. Yeah, I didn't have the script. I thought this was the one that they said there's a script. Yeah. So no, I guess there wasn't. Oh, but they're just trying. Yeah. Equipment that you have. Oh yeah, no. So it's just kind of box text. Yeah, the bolt is just kind of box text for the. Okay. Yeah, I thought there was a. I thought I remembered something about the characters reading something out loud. That was a little odd. That might have been something, another part. And then the stats for your Y-Wing. Nice. And then an ad if you'd like to own your own X-Wing. Here it is. Nice. Original advertisement from Galactic Defense Review. Nice. I like how it's like folded. It was obviously like torn out of the magazine and folded because the rebels are like, hey, we should buy some of these. A 4-week Grand Galactic tour. Yeah, this funny like in-universe stuff is very funny, very cheesy. Yeah, your 4-week grand tour. You can see Tatooine, Endor. So basically only the places you've seen in movies. Galaxy tours. Oh, and then the astromech droid ad. Yeah, these are so like, yeah, 80s magazine ads. They don't look in universe. They look like 80s. And here's maps for the adventure that Mesa. Oh, here's the adventure script. There, this is the thing I was thinking about. Yeah. Yes, this is it. Okay. So, yeah, they set things up and then have a script that the players can read. Yeah, this is an odd way to do it. I mean, I guess it's hard to, the players would know something. I often shortcut it to, this and you tell the party this, if the character would have this information, but having them read the style is a little odd. And I wonder if they kept this up even in the revised edition, like having the adventurers have this conversation. This I remember, in our one shot, this was kind of an odd thing. All right, so the Game Master Chapter 4, the Adventure section, Chapter 4, Adventure Ideas. Shine On, Harvest Moon. So some background and adventure ideas. Oh yeah, so these are the hooks that they're a silent witness, Lap of Luxury, Jedi Heirlooms. The Night Has 1,000 Eyes, a Class Reunion, Ain't Science Grand, Marooned on Hoth. Oh, that sounds miserable. A Pirate Prince, Rings of Brightwater. Oh, nice. And then we're to the templates. Yeah, so they give you a bunch of hooks. So explaining. Oh, and they even go through the episodes, like what would happen in the corresponding episode. So that's more than just a hook. That's a big starter for continuing. Well, that's pretty good. All right, so here's a big blank sheet, but that's for basically making your own. Look how large and unwieldy it is, and look how nice and slim. These two-sided templates, these are great. So we've got a bunch of these, all right? So the alien student of the Force, arrogant noble. Oh, little sneak peek there. I'll put this there. It's exactly what happened to me when I found this in a box. The armchair historian, and then of course their background. Bounty hunter, brash pilot, Ewok. Oh, don't go Ewok. Failed Jedi, gambler, kid. A kid. Laconic scout, loyal retainer, the merc. Minor Jedi, Mon Calamari. Was it these guys that... Let me double check, because that's what I thought there was somebody that... couldn't use force points. Minor Jedi, Mon Calamari. Old Senatorial. The Outlaw, the Pirate. Quixotic Jedi. Retired Imperial Captain, Smuggler, Tongue-Tied Engineer. Please no. The stammery. Young senatorial Wookiee. Tough native. Nice. Wow, 24, yeah. So 8 pages of those. And then here's all of our weapon charts and our scatter charts, everything they were referring to. All the tables in the back, your armor. Healing, astrogation, force difficulty, your charts, mishaps, cost charts, credits for your blaster pistol, 500 credits. And the difficulty numbers. Yes, is probably everything that would be on your GM screen. Falling in collision, starship, damage tables, optional misfire, optional grenade misfire, more grenade damage modifiers, then optional movement chart. Nice. All right. Oh, and you can get your Hamilton collection. I'm sure this isn't available anymore, but wow, this is really tempting. So you've gone through all of this, and this must be, they must have paid, so it probably, offset the cost of producing this book by putting a Hamilton collection plate of Han Solo in the back of the book. Limited edition, 24-karat gold rim. They'd be proud to display this on your shelf, but I think they warn you, don't eat off of this because it contains like lead-based paint. I think that was the Hamilton collection. Look at that, a Hamilton collection. So are there more ads? Oh, yeah, just for their own stuff. That's good. So yeah, here's the Star Wars source book. So this is the other one that was reproduced in the anniversary setting. So it goes into more starfighters, and I think more Jedi details. Game stats for vehicles, weapons, droids, and more aliens. 120 illustrations. Okay. So I think more templates and things in there. Of course, they're Paranoia and Ghostbusters. So yeah, they don't have a date. I think this was the first IP using the same D6 system. All right. And so, yes, so when I found this book and was going through it, something that fell out of it that I completely forgot about was this. So they immediately, and they even mentioned it in the book using maps and tokens. And this, compared to some of the other ones that I had, this is like in perfect condition, this little insert to these miniatures. So West End Games also produced metal miniatures for Star Wars, and that meant that they even did a rule system. So previous to the Star Wars stuff that we have now, the miniatures games we have now, back in 87, I think this was actually like 89 by the time they released the rules for this. But so here is the 10 miniatures that are in this first starter set, the Heroes of the Rebellion. They're advertising the role-playing game, but look on the back, the stats for the for use in the role-playing game. So they already have all of the named characters statted out for use in the game. So not because the miniatures game wasn't finished yet, but these are stats for the role-playing game. So basically the templates for the known characters. So when this fell out, it's like, wait a minute, that means somewhere in this box these exist, and they kind of did. So at the very bottom of the box, I found this. So I guess I picked this up at the same time, or close to the same time, at least at the same shop. So Grenadier did quite a few, and they did some pretty large chunks of metal, to represent the ships and things. They did like snow speeders and land speeders and Rancor. They did all kinds of crazy things in metal. So this is a very crushed, but this is the first set that they did, the 25 millimeter metal miniatures for use with the Star Wars role-playing game, but we'll take a look at soon how they continued that. And unfortunately, so it's good that this wasn't inside, because it would have been totally destroyed like everything else. But here we go. So the layer of foam on top was gone, and unfortunately our two droids have escaped. So I don't know why I pulled them out for some ungodly reason. But yeah, all that was left in here are the eight humans, not humans, there's a Wookiee, but 8 humanoid miniatures. So there was a C-3PO and R2-D2 in here as well. But yeah, it's, well, let's get as close as we can. So there's a Han and a Chewbacca and a X-Wing pilot, or just a rebel pilot running. I guess this is our Luke. Yeah, Luke with a blaster, and then Ben with a lightsaber, our Princess Leia, and then another rebel pilot, and then, oh wait, so is that, oh, this was Han. Yeah, this was Han. And then, yeah, we got a couple. So there's like 3 generic kind of rebels, and then the cast, and then the missing droids. But it doesn't look, because they did release blister packs of these as well, so it doesn't look like it'd be too hard to replace them. I don't know if I'm ever going to need to, but I didn't paint them. They don't have the horrible blobby coat of lacquer paint on them, so that's nice. Yeah, nobody got any paint. I think because this was quite late, because I think this was 89. The miniatures came out like between 87 for the RPG, and then these were coming out in support of the RPG, but then they did a miniatures game. So I don't think these ever got played with and ever used in cooperation with the game. It was just something that I was like, wanted to have as a collector. And that's why I only had the first set, but they did do a set of these for each movie, and then like a bounty hunter set and a stormtrooper set. So they did sets of 10, as Grenadier did. I love these. I mean, these are super nostalgic for me, these long boxes with the foam. And the fantasy ones had cut foam separators and then another sheet on top, so they were very safely held in here. The ones that I've seen for sale that have been opened, it's just a sheet on top, and they're just kind of floating around in there. So I don't know what, but along with these, I recovered a ton of these Grenadier miniatures. So let's take a look at what they tried to do, and then I'll tell you if you're interested in taking a look at any of this and all of the source, where it is available, because I couldn't find anything on drive-through. I think they did the physical reprint for the anniversary, but this is out of print. It doesn't exist except for used resale versions. But let's take a quick look at what they did by 89, I believe. Yes, so before, was it Legion, Star Wars Legion, and the things that Fantasy Flight is doing, and even prior to X-Wing, they did a Star Wars miniatures battles. And look at this is all metal miniatures, and basically it looks like Legion. I can understand like why they kind of thought that there would be a market for this, and there still is. Like, the game is still kind of surviving. But they did, West End Games did a 25 millimeter kind of skirmish level. When you look at the rules, it's not a small thing to get involved with. There's say like 6, I think it's like 3 to 30 miniatures. So there's per side. So there is a lot going on. So this is the 2nd edition revised rules. I couldn't find on the site. They didn't have a PDF of this, but I was really surprised. Yeah, this came out. So they did miniatures in support, because Grenadier, supported D&D, and I think Traveler as well with miniatures, just for, on the tabletop. But this is a actual miniatures game, and they're telling you a 4x6 or larger table as a skirmish game. That's insane. That is an insane amount of space. And then talking about, so you're rolling D6s again. So the rules are very similar to the RPG. So it's very funny that they so quickly came out with this. But there's some more. So here's the sheet is very recognizable. Same sort of stats. You get dice in all of these different skills. So very similar. And they have squad cohesion. That was something that was funny and surprising. And then arc of fire. So you've got just a 90-degree arc in front of you. So if there's facing matters for the Yeah, but I thought that this was hysterical. I don't think I knew this at the time or just wasn't paying attention because I wasn't really, I was only tabletop. I wasn't really a miniatures war gamer in the 80s. So this would have kind of snuck right by me, or I wouldn't have, wouldn't have paid attention. And there's like all kinds of templates for every sort of grenade and thing in the back. It's really crazy, but they produced a ton. There's a website that actually catalogs all of the Grenadier Star Wars stuff, and they produced a ton of metal miniatures for the RPG and for this game. I mean, it's an insane amount and this is, 87, so this is early days, Warhammer's just getting started with Rogue Trader and early days of Mutant Chronicles of Warzone. This is very funny that Star Wars, with West End Games, Star Wars was in there. They have morale rules. And some funny alien races. They did tons of miniatures for. But as you can see, or as you can see from that close up, the detail, they're hand sculpted, and they're okay miniatures, and they're not amazing now, but they had that kind of charming hand sculpted, but so many of the the weapons and things needed some kind of hard geometry that I don't think they got. But yeah, I thought this was so much fun to see. And there's advanced game rules. That's right, hidden movement. They have tactics where you're just putting tokens down, and you don't know if that's an actual model or if it's just a false blip. You can put dummy counters down as well. So they had a little bit of early, camouflage and hidden deployment rules. Yeah, it was really fun. And and that was the other interesting thing, is they also encourage, just to manage the rules, have a game master at the in the war game. So that's very early thinking, but lots of templates, and there's even tokens and templates in the back to photocopy. But yeah, lots of proton torpedo. How'd you like to get hit with one of those? Yeah, so that giant template is in the back. But yeah, look at those stormtroopers, all crusty looking. That's great. I can't believe, too, a little off topic, there's a ton of 3D, like STL model support for Star Wars Legion and Star Wars games now. And you could play this as well. They've got a lot that you can produce, and so people are printing them on Etsy, and then also selling the STLs. But there's a ton of off-brand Star Wars. So probably Warhammer and Star Wars are the two most like off-branded models available. I was amazed how much stuff is out there. So it would not be hard to put something like this together and give this rule set a try. Look at those crusty miniatures; they're great. And the basing. Oh yeah, 80s. I mean, I wasn't even anywhere near this level in the 80s. As we'll see as we go through some of the later, my fantasy miniatures, my painting was just, I think I just dipped them. I think maybe I was literally just pouring the paint over the miniatures. They're so globbed up. But oh yeah, and even like larger scale. Yeah, there's really big stuff. Yeah, we should take a look at that at a future time. All of those miniatures. Really crazy. And droids. Yeah, so a surprisingly complete rule set came out just a few years later, and here's all the scenarios for, they include a bunch of scenarios for Star Wars. So Star Wars wargaming is a lot older than I thought. I thought that the Fantasy Flight stuff was kind of the beginning of that, but not even close. That had a couple of decades already. Yes, tons of stats. And the Adventure Journal. Oh yeah. Look at this. A new short story from Timothy Zahn in issue 1. Star Wars Adventure Journal. That's funny. For the Star Wars Adventure fans, there was all sorts of like fan magazines and support. You can check out your classified ads, and here's all these crazy templates. Look at that photon torpedo. But yeah, this is all included in the back. Smoke grenade. Yikes. artillery heavy bombardment area of effect, an 8-inch radius, and then just your beautiful counters. But isn't that, yeah, that's great. I was really surprised. Oh, and I guess that it is compatible with the second edition of the role-playing game, but you don't need the role-playing game to play it. Yeah, so I guess maybe the stats and everything were close enough so you could actually do the battles, like do larger battles tactically in this game, but then, do the role-playing in the other system. Crazy. All right. Well, thank you for joining me, and I'll hang around and we'll talk. I'll talk with the chat. Thank you guys for hanging out. I decided just to do this very last minute. There's so much Star Wars content because of the May the 4th stuff. So we did it May the 5th. So that lispy thing. So I tried to look up, and the internet is becoming more and more useless as a source of information. I tried to look up the origin of the May the 4th as Star Wars Day. And it's so ridiculous. Even Wikipedia is so ridiculous. Like they say the first known, use of this term, and we're talking about, we only care about in terms of this stupid Star Wars holiday that Disney pushes so hard. But the first example of it was the Margaret Thatcher winning her, I don't know, first or second or whatever, like, some newspaper printed, her party or whatever printed a full page ad, May the 4th be with you, Margaret Thatcher. So that was actually included in this. But I guess it was like a lot of stuff for Star Wars and also Star Trek back in the day. It was like, grassroots kind of fan stuff. And somebody came up with it, and I don't think until like 2011 did it really get used kind of regularly. Like somebody printed it in a fan magazine or something, and it had a couple of things that kind of came up. But of course, then Disney, in 2013, when Disney got their hands on Star Wars, it became this, federal holiday. I'm sure wouldn't be surprised if it was a bank holiday, but Disney pushed this really hard to promote this brand that they just bought. But very unclear about how the origin of that holiday. It just kind of existed, and of course Disney co-opted it. They maybe have found it lingering around. But it's so funny the weird lispiness of it. So I imagine like a Disney CEO, or maybe just like a Lucasfilm CEO, like bring your burden to work day, your kid to work day. So you got some little lispy kid and says something to to an employee, trying to say, may the force be with you. And the employee hears it as, May the 4th what? We're all getting fired? What? So I thought the origin of that is absolutely silly. They don't have a real, but of course Disney jumped on it, but there's not a really clear, like, documented use of it. So I'm wondering, where you guys first heard of it, and of course it is this foundational thing for Disney to promote along with their like Star Wars Celebration stuff and everything. But yeah, this is actually done on May the 5th. So May the 5th be with you. So Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, Cinco de Mayo is the actual holiday. But thanks for joining me. And I'll hang around. We'll take a look at stuff. Oh, and the place where all of this stuff exists, and the PDF that we were looking at is called D6 Holocron. So D6 Holocron is an archive of all of the old West End Games Star Wars stuff. Every supplement, everything. They show all the covers. And the covers may or may not be clickable, but they show all the covers to everything that was produced, all the source books and everything. So there may be something there, but they show you the covers of everything. And then there was another site, if you search the Grenadier Star Wars, that literally cataloged every single model that was released in every set. And it's insane how big some of that stuff gets. So maybe we'll switch over after this. But thank you so much for joining me. And I might carve this out and make it its own video so it shows up more than a live stream. But thanks for joining me, and we'll see you again next time. Goodbye. All right. So, hey, how is everybody doing in the chat? Did I Yeah, D6 Holocron. Yes, Cork. Yes, Cork knew that. Yeah, it's insane. Like they have a really good. So let me just cut this off. A really good archive of this stuff. Yeah, and I wasn't able to find it anywhere else. So they're in their and I like that. Not all links are images, and not all images are links. Download files as you see fit, because they're not claiming to have any ownership over any of this. And but yeah, here's a really impressive archives of all of the core books, and then all of the guides. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff, and I couldn't believe. I kind of suspected, because it was always this ever present thing, and just the endless source books for every every new piece of media and setting that came out, and the supplements. Yeah, a lot of books. So it's a shame that this stuff is just basically out of print. I don't think, because Fantasy or first Wizards of the Coast, but then Fantasy Flight took over these licenses. They changed the system, and all of this work is gone. But like I read, there was so much stuff that was done. This is really the beginning. Like maybe anybody that was using was doing comics work or any kind of support BD, or probably even like writing novels. Like they said, they gave Timothy Zahn a bunch of West End Games source books to kind of get him acquainted with the setting. It was amazing. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, thanks for doing the link. But yeah, even the miniatures game, miniatures game stuff is on here. Just everything. So this game is so playable. Why aren't we playing this? This game is so playable, and we could do, Star Wars with the sensibility that it originally had, instead of this weird, like, let's make it a girl brand. Let's make it, politically sensitive. It's very strange. It's very, very interesting. There was a video that was, that somebody did just talking about Star Wars. One of the cinema essay guys that I watch a bunch, that was talking about, kind of the intention, and this makes a lot of sense. Like the reason that Star Wars was so digestible and people had such a strong reaction to it is, along with all the other bullshit that Lucas has claimed was his influence. Another thing that he mentioned is there was the cuts were a lot quicker. The editing was a lot faster than people were used to in longer shots from the 70s, and there was no complicated kind of anti-hero. This was very black and white, and the music, like, told you exactly how to feel and how important and dramatic things were. So Lucas made a mention that that smoothed out the editing, and that Star Wars operated more like a silent film. Like, you should be able to watch Star Wars without the dialogue, and I guess that's why the dialogue was, so so poorly written. And then that final edit of the first film, they cut, so much of the nonsense out. There's minimal dialogue, and you can watch it as a silent film because it's that clear about who people are just by their their look and their costuming, and it's very easy to understand. And the way that the person reinforced it is he showed those 8mm loops that they used to sell of little kind of toy, consumer projectors. I think they might have been in 16 as well, but they did like little short pieces of Star Wars that you could buy and then watch on a projector, but it was just like one scene. And some of those were done in black and white, no sound, with explainer text kind of popping up at the bottom of, kind of what was being said or what was going on, but very, very little bit of it. But that does really help you understand, that Star Wars was super digestible, what they came out with as a product compared to what had existed prior in the 70s, and kind of slow, ponderous, quiet sci-fi. And so that was funny. That was, I think, a big part of it being so just a massive success in, crossing all kinds of, non-geek, non-nerd, because it really wasn't if you were like really obsessed with it, I guess that was the nerdy part of it, but just regular people like just, just like you liked Jaws, people liked Star Wars. It wasn't this like weird fandom that was like way before the birth of any sort of bizarre fandom. But yeah, it's amazing how much stuff they produced. It's really crazy. Yeah, so we got to play some some D6 Star Wars, some West End games on the channel. Just it'd be so much fun. Nice. Oh wow, Arturo saying yeah, the Gorman. Oh wow, yeah, I bet it is because and it's funny that these were early days and people really like had a good sense of like what the limits were, and like just like they talked about in the source book or the role playing book, how to make something feel like Star Wars. We were so close to that original feeling that we had in the movies that I think people could write and make media that matched that. And I think things got so far, once Star Wars just became a VHS Laserdisc phenomena for the later part of the decade and all through the 90s until the special editions. I really think that you got away from what that original feeling was like that you came away with from the theatrical experience. And I don't know if you guys remember like how much Star Wars got re-released. It seemed like it was always in the movie theater. Every summer it was in the drive-ins. It was just, you could see it forever. And it was back in the day too, where a movie could stay literally for a year screening in a theater, like several months from popularity. Because there were so few kind of, blockbuster spectacle movies at that time that, stuff could just sit. And it wasn't just like we have now, this like first weekend. I don't know if you saw the July, this July is going to be insane. I don't know how anybody's going to make any money out of, I think they're doing Superman, Fantastic Four, and the new Jurassic World, like in 3 weeks, like just 1, 2, 3. So they're going to knock each other, out of IMAX theaters and stuff. It's ridiculous how high pressure. But this is back in the day where, a movie could just sit in the theater. And you would ask your friends, how many times have you seen Star Wars? And if anybody that wasn't double digit, and double digits like wasn't into it, because you could go infinitely. And it was the same experience, again and again. Pretty impressive. That's really cool if they are using stuff. And Quark was saying the West End game Star Wars stuff is also heavily intertwined, with the extended universe. Yeah, I think they talk about this being the origin of it. Like this was the first thinking, and I think because the people writing RPG adventures are trying to make a good story, and so. Even more than just like filling pages in a comic book or, kind of stretching it out for a novel. I think the RPG writers wanted to come up with compelling stuff. And so maybe that made them a little, work a little harder to, kind of come up with something interesting. No, double wrench. Nice. Oh yeah. Matt was saying that promotional thing in the Timothy Zahn magazine is probably quite popular. Yeah, the sealed copies of these Grenadier miniatures people want like $100 for online. That's crazy. But they're holding. You can get open stuff, and also like if somebody did a cruddy paint job that you'd have to strip, you can get the metal miniatures pretty. But they're tiny. 25 is like surprisingly tiny. I don't know if you could see on the we can go back. I can switch scenes. The 25 mil it's only 3 millimeters more from eyes, from base to eye line. But look how tiny that's a Wookiee. Like that is not a very impressive looking figure, and how tiny Princess Leia is. Yeah, these are really, really small. They feel really, really small, and because they're hand sculpted, they're not heroic proportions, but they're a little bit cartoony, just because of the the sculpting, so they can't do anything too thin or too breakable. But yeah, these feel really small, and they do suggest 1-inch bases, 25mm bases for the miniatures game. But yeah, these, I don't know. Yeah, they're very, very tiny. Oh, so wait, let me see if I can find that while I have you guys off the screen. Let me see if I can find this Grenadier. Yeah, that site with all the Grenadier miniatures was amazing. There we go. Lost Minis Wiki was the yeah, the name of that. So let's let me switch us back here. So miniatures-workshop.com has the Lost Miniatures Wiki. So look at all these sets. And these are all they did 14 sets of 10, so it's 140. There's probably some duplicates in there, but 140. And then they did all of these blister packs, and some of them got pretty insane. But so here's the tiny photos of tiny individuals, and then the next one was Imperial, so all stormtroopers and Tarkin and Imperial stuff, and then bounty hunters. Those look great, but they all have that same hand sculpted style, and then they go back and do New Hope, so a little bit different sculpts of so Leia holding a blaster instead of standing there, and Luke looking at the sun instead of holding a blaster, and there's Greedo. But yeah, these just get insane. So the probe droid, yikes, that's got to be, it had to be hard to sculpt to get it to make any sense. A Gamorrean guard, they're getting larger. And then just generic rebel characters, the canteen, the bartender. I'm sure he definitely has a name now. But look, yeah, Rancor, like they're getting, this is like a multi-piece. So they have the Keeper, but then they have this giant multi-piece Rancor. Do these pop up? Yeah. 2 bases. Yeah, so each of his legs is on a base because they do the little puddle bases. They're just crazy. So all the pilots and stuff. Yeah, so here's I found this a couple times, this blister pack. So I could replace those droids pretty easily if I had to. I don't know why they weren't in the box. But where's the ships? Let's see, it might be another category. But yeah, so yeah, basically breaking up each of those sets with individuals. And Jabba. I can't imagine how heavy that thing is. A big Jabba the Hutt sitting, so he's not moving around anywhere. Where's the oh yeah, so they're just in the packs. I don't think there's anything else. But yeah, they did to scale a land speeder, to scale speeder bikes. Those aren't be too big, but like this thing. Look at this big chunk of metal. The snow speeders. That's crazy, and they're not like on flight bases or anything. A bantha with a rider. Yikes. Yeah, really big chunks of metal for back in the day. And a tauntaun. I guess that would be the most ridiculous, but yeah, I was really surprised. So this was fun to see, like, actually how much they produced. It was a ton of miniatures. Nice. We had all the lead, says Matt. Yes, the gas was not unleaded. Yeah, we could have regular gas with lead in it. Our Hamilton, the limited edition plates had lead in them. Everything had lead. Or just as 2 bases, the rebels could barely afford 1. Yeah, that's crazy. Good stuff. Oh yeah. Those Fantasy Flight, and then they did for that. That's not Fantasy Flight, but the Atomic Garage or whoever's doing Shatterpoint. those are 50 mil, like 54. So they're gigantic. Yeah, character pieces. They're larger. They're not 28. Maybe they aren't 54. They're pretty big though. Nice. Yeah, so this was really fun to take a look at everything, and I was surprised this was in such great shape. I mean, we'll take a look at some of the other rescues, and they are pretty demolished, or at least the pages inside, have a pretty serious like yellow border, like they were getting yellowed pretty bad. But I was so happy to see this in such great shape. So I didn't get the source book back in the day, but did have this original one and most of. And it's so funny, this was just stuck in here as a bookmark, so in really good shape. But then I knew there must be miniatures in there somewhere. Yeah, it's funny. So yeah, there's a huge box of Grenadier miniatures to take a look at. I don't have a lot of these boxes, didn't survive, but I have a lot of the Grenadier dragons, and I think the halflings, the dwarves, the magic users, the that kind of set of, what did they call it? Like the denizens, dungeon denizens or whatever. So like the lizard man and the beholder and all the kind of random mind flayer and a bunch of the random stuff. So we'll take a look at those old Grenadier. They're really charming. I mean, that's talk about the that kind of hand sculpted look, but that's still super charming for these miniatures, and the fact that they were at that kind of smaller scale to make it even harder to put any detail in there. But it was really really fun to take a look through the book again, and kind of how they how they talked about things was much more of that time. But they were trying to be much more instructional. I don't know if because we're looking at second edition. I don't know if even second edition D&D talked much about how to play the game, if there was very much instruction. But they really go out of their way, like every skill and everything had a little bit of back and forth dialogue about how it works or how it would run or how you would talk about it in the game. So that's very interesting. For everything to be followed by an example. Nice. But, very cool. Oh, yeah, Cyworld. Yeah, okay, we'll do some Cyworld. Yeah, the only thing that exists from Cyworld is the box cover. So at some point, I guess the box was just totally gone, so I just cut the sides off, and so I've got the cover of my Cyworld box set and the cover of my Traveler box set. So we will do those. Yeah, we'll do those. But I thought, just with all the Star Wars stuff going on, I may as well pull this out. And this was the thing that was in the best shape. I was happy to see that. So we'll look at diminishing things in much more damaged condition. But it was fun to do a flip through and kind of unearth. But we really should be playing this game. This is so fun and easy, and I think it'd be super simple to build a character sheet and set this up in Alchemy. We could have a nice looking, and just go through, get a bunch of old Ralph McQuarrie art for the scenes and stuff. That'd be great to just do it as retro as possible. Nice. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Matt was going through second edition. Nice. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait, Matt. Yeah, I can't wait to see. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You were getting through the editing, and that's going to be it'll be great. A great look through so that'll definitely be the big unearthing, the mother lode of RPGs. Nice. Yeah, good. Yeah, thanks everybody for finding the stream. Yeah, I thought I would just get online. So the timing just worked out, so that I didn't have stuff in the middle of the day. So it's technically the Golden Week holiday. So it worked out. I could hang out with you guys and look at some Star Wars. But I was really blown away by how much this got supported. I didn't remember any of that because I just, it gets confused. Just in my head, it gets confused then with the D20 version. And then that all bleeds into, what Fantasy Flight did. And yeah, they didn't have to. It's so funny. I wish somebody could have just gotten rights to this stuff and just kept, republishing and re-releasing a lot of this stuff. I don't think it needed an update, maybe a third edition with a little bit of, just clean up in, present. There's just so much stuff in here though. Like, I guess just, just updating the, I don't know, it's funny looking through here because you don't see, there's no mention of safety tools. There's no mention of comfort levels. There's just like in this setting, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. Here's your expectations. So, very different approaches. So that would be the thing that, if they republish this, if somebody got the rights and was going to republish this system and maybe do a third edition, it would have all of that in it. It would have the, Minocs are very terrifying mucosal creatures that will chew on your power cables. So be prepared for that. Let us know if you're triggered by power consumption. Oh yeah, Golden Week. That's right. Yes, the Japanese holiday. Right. Yeah, no Order 66. Yeah, I like that introduction because, it talked about stuff that we didn't really know about, because we got very little about how the Emperor took power, where that came from, and what the, the Clone Wars and, Republic era was like before things fell apart. Now we have them too fleshed out maybe and too explained, and there's too many comics that go in, and novels too. Yeah, that's the thing. There's a million Star Wars novels now that just like flesh out way too much nonsense. And I think a lot of them, they write novels to cover certain eras or to do something with with characters, but then somebody else just writes another one that contradicts it, and it's all just a really big mess, even in the post Disney cleanup. Like that is, it's really silly that they made the effort of deleting the extended universe just to keep some sort of continuity, and they blew it right away. So nice. Oh no. Uh-oh, Abyss has started to worry. He may be the youngest one at the table. Lots of older fans here. Yeah, that's right. That's really true. That's not, the Jedi are kind of an order that was over. Like in the first movie, it was this kind of thing that didn't exist anymore, but we didn't know that there was this like massacre and how that really played out. So much more hope and potential, I think, in the setting. And the prequels really, I mean, they tried to, quantify force ability and stuff. Yeah, with the midichlorians, and it's just very weird. You just have a blood test to find out how force sensitive you were. Yeah, but really good stuff. Yeah, so I'm watching a bunch of the Space 1999 episodes that are just on YouTube, and yeah, that's such a perfect show. Like it's a really of its time. It's like a really great show to like show you what 70s hour long quiet episodes with just wacky. And the funny thing is, like, unlike Star Trek, it's just the attitude is just they're being subjected to this insane stuff. So kind of like problem of the week, monster of the week, alien of the week stuff. And the feeling of it at the end of the episode is just, whoa. Everyone's just like reeling from what they just, had to deal with. And it's not like a problem solved like Star Trek. And because it was the 60s and a little more funny and it's, humorous in its sensibility. we've learned this, and they have kind of a little bit of it's a little more moralistic, or a little like lesson based in just like how we're better for having known this. But the Space 1999, they just reeling at the end of every episode, like, oh my god, what the hell was that? So it's just stuff they're dealing with, and they're just getting through it. It's just this endless, chain of ordeals. And I think the second season gets a little sillier, but at least the first season episodes that I'm watching, it has such a different tone, because it's much more serious, because more than, they're about 10 years, I guess about 10 years after Star Trek, and British, it's a British production. So it's quiet and very somber and very like, what the hell? Oh my God. And a lot of like questioning, humanity's mortality and reproduction, and like, reasons for existence. It's a lot more existential, and lots of weird, funny questions that don't get answered, that are just posed, and that they're just like, whoa. So very funny, very, so different from Star Wars. But the funny thing is, it had a weird similarity, because I think it was Pinewood Studios, like a lot of the model designers and stuff, like, these were, it had a similarity to, the level of, at least the technology and everything they did for Star Wars. So it had a look that, in its era, that how they depicted sci-fi, that felt similar, but the tone and everything was completely different. But that's what attracted to me. I just wanted anything, sci-fi in the mid 70s. And, that's very funny. Very cool. Oh yeah, Farscape. Yeah. I wish that show wasn't so expensive. That would have been great to get more Farscape. They did an amazing amount of it, though, for how expensive that show was, and it being produced in Australia, I think. And I watched something about it, and I think they had to move it, or like between seasons there was some pressure, and they made it even more expensive because they had to move, or there was being threatened that they had to move it out of Australia. But yeah, that's a good show. Turbo said, the Jedi were religious extremists that inspired a terrorist organization. Yeah, it's so funny, like our idea at this time of what a Jedi was, and the kind of pull and push of like the dark and light side and everything. And now, as we've seen them be ineffective, hypocritical, child abducting, like the fact that they steal children now to train, like some kind of, really fanatical cult. Yeah, it's really, really bad. Oh, the T word. Yeah. Too many dangerous words. But yeah, the Jedi are just, it's nothing. Maybe they just wanted to encourage less people to want to play Jedi in games by making them just so incompetent and, just weird. And that weird little tease of, they're very, like in the first prequel movie, the Jar Jar movie, how they showed like insane leaping abilities and high speed. They could move at high speeds, and like their physical capabilities were insane. And then they just never showed that again. Very, very strange that they decided to go all in on, okay, Jedi are amazing because this is the amazing time. They're superheroes, and we're going to show you. Okay, forget that. That's going to make things really, really hard to portray, because they're going to be so much more capable than any normal human. That's very, very bizarre. Yeah, a lot of weird missteps, but I don't think George Lucas ever had a concrete idea. He just just came up with stuff. And as he got older and weirder, it was just, I've heard a lot of like really funny stories about how the, people that had to deal with him and his creativity. Just like, okay, George. I guess once you make that much money from one idea, one property. Yeah. And you become the, the god of that fandom. You have to get funny. It has to make you weird. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. That was like a video game. Yeah, Star Wars video game levels of force power. That's right. Yeah, Vader grabs the, but it was the other ship that was escaping. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they just don't have a good sense of the, and it's just it's not fleshed out very well. So it's just whatever they need it for, whatever cool scene or plot device or whatever. Yeah, because that Starkiller character in the video games where you're like the Darth Vader's apprentice, he was like just crashing Star Destroyers with the Force. So, which I guess they kind of got to that point at the end of the prequels because, yeah, wasn't the Emperor just like, casting Force lightning and destroying entire fleets of, or first he was raising an entire, like, who knows how many hundreds of Star Destroyers he was raising them up, and then he was got a little out of control. That's funny. Oh yeah, let me take a look at the chat on YouTube. I'm missing a lot of the emojis and stuff. Yeah, very funny. Oh yeah, I really thought Matt said season 1 of The Mandalorian was pretty good. It had that 80s episodic television thing going. I'm like, wow, if they do this is perfect, because that's definitely what Star Wars is capable of. It wasn't brilliant stories or anything, but it was like compelling enough, and like, oh, he's going to save a little town and he's going to do this, and they're just going to like throw a little visual teasers of something. Oh, here's a ATST, or a certain alien, species pop up. And it's like, okay, that's perfect. This is the whole light level. And then they started doing that thing that all streaming reduces itself to, is the full season story arc, where it's serial instead of episodic. But yeah, when Mandalorian was episodic for that little while, I was like, that was great. That could work. And they abandoned that so fast. And I think it's because somebody looking at numbers, probably some executives, and that's why this like streaming thing is they're never gonna figure out what it is, because executives are looking at the engagement that they're getting on social media for shows, which doesn't mean viewership, which doesn't mean popularity. But when something is serial and it's waiting to find out what's next, what happens next, what happens next, what happens next, it keeps people talking about it. So you show up in Google rankings or whatever, and they equate that to money, which it doesn't have anything to do with anything. But I think that's why they can't get away from these stupid shows. And the writing for streaming series is, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. It's terrible. It's really, really terrible. And by the end of a season, you don't even know what the hell you watched. Like, there's nothing memorable. There's nothing thematic. Maybe you had a particularly violent scene or sexual scene, or crazy CG whatever, dragons destroying an ice wall, whatever. You had some scene that was like, oh, that was a pretty big spectacle, but like story wise, like nothing sticks with you. You don't think about it after, because it's nothing. It's not even like, yeah. So it's weird, because it's less impactful than episodic shows would be, because it's just nothing. It's so funny. Yeah, I'm not sure. I've only watched the first 3 episodes of Andor so far, and I don't like. Did somebody tell them that the first season was too much for the boys, and prison breaks and heists were too boy based? So now we have to have weddings and like just like weird little dramas that are for the ladies. I don't know. There was something about just the tone of the first 3 episodes. I'm like, I don't want to care about half of this stuff. And the disco droid, the EDM disco droid, I'm like, don't, please, what's this? Please don't do this. But I don't know why Disney, there has to be this executive pull where they're just like, and now for the ladies, we'll have beautiful gowns. And it just seems really weird and patronizing. I don't know. Oh no, I'm missing. Oh, Matt says, I've been in the Goonies house and the Goonie jail 3 times and the kindergarten cop school because it's in the same town. Nice. Yeah, but Matt, did you go in the underground where the pirate ship was in the Goonies? Oh, no. Oh, wow. Yeah, I understand what they were like. I understand kind of what they were doing with the writing and stuff, but I don't know. It just, yeah, it felt, and I guess they were, because it was more in the world of, the kind of aristocratic, the richer, kind of supporters of the rebellion, and that stuff was falling apart, and there was, the characters, feeling conflicted and having to hide, the origins of the rebellion. But yeah, some of that stuff is just, and it's just that I don't like, I'm really like creeped out by that fakey Japanese thing that they do, that like this era, it's a bunch of white people like wearing pseudo kimono, everything. And then that part where they're walking with staves up a mountain with the big hats. I'm like, what is this? It's so exotic sci-fi is Asia, or is Asian. It's very, they've got to come up with better, just stop using that Japanese influence. I mean, it's gotten so out of control because everybody's wearing tattooing farmers' robes of luxurious, silks and whatever. But that kind of weird thing, and just then when they're doing those kind of weird fakey their culture, the dances like those in the ceremonies and stuff, like we don't need to see any of this. It could just be hand waved. Let's just get to the the story beats, or the parts that were just too much of that silly ceremony. I don't want to see so many details about the food that they eat and the what happens in a wedding ceremony and all the costuming and stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of people that enjoy that, but oh yeah. I got to see I got to see more. Oh, no, not the space French. No. No. Oh no. Yeah, I'm curious about, because that's where they do like a more origin thing, and also, oh yeah, let's not get into the the other topic, but the SA SA scene, which they didn't need to do. Like, it would have been just as effective if she was hiding, protecting them, protecting the rebels, and protecting her, protecting her allies. It didn't have to. It could have, of course, any assaults going that way could have been interpreted as SA, but they didn't have to say that, and it could have just been her fighting this guy. But why was it the only attractive woman in the entire show that was SA'd, or attempted SA'd? So what, pretty girls get stitches? I don't like, that was weird, and I have a trouble with the whole thing, the whole casting. Why do they have to find so many unpleasant looking women in that show? Or always, and all the Star Wars stuff has that problem. It just got some really, really fugly actors in that show, and not for any like good reason. There's sometimes good reasons to cast like unusual or strange looking people, but everybody's pretty ugly. Yeah, that's very different from the 70s and 80s. Yeah. Yeah, I got to watch more. I definitely have to watch more. I just didn't like the disco droid. Yeah, we were watching the same show. Yeah, definitely. I guess Mon Mothma is she's really old. She's kind of aging out of that role because I think there were cut scenes. I think it's that same actress, right? That was in the prequel trilogy, that played Mon Mothma, and that was 20 years ago or whatever. So yeah, she's kind of aging out of that role to be younger than she was in, or no, that's right. Those were the prequels. So she would be much younger, but yeah, little old. Oh man. No, I just mean as far as, just look at like the cast of, I guess it's TV, but like Battlestar Galactica or anything. It's like, yeah, I just don't mind looking at attractive women. I think England just doesn't have that many, so I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I don't need, Charlie's Angels and cleavage, but I'm just saying it's hard to, it's hard to look at. And I noticed that especially they were doing that, what was it? The Last Jedi had a lot of that, like, you're really reeling at some of the, how rough some of the actors looked. Oh, man. Base stakes were high. Oh, so true. Yeah, in the States, men were real men, women were real women, and the small furry. Oh, yeah, that's right. The death. Yes, exactly. We're small furry creatures from Alpha Centauri. No, I mean, if and I don't mean like them looking like standard. When they cast those like actor-looking people, and so you can't even believe that they're what they're even pretending to be, just because they have that weird actor look. But yeah, it's just weird how like aggressively ugly some of those actors are, and it makes sense in certain roles, but it's like the casting doesn't have any logic. It just goes beyond all of that. And just people that are, and I don't even mean like physically attractive, I mean just have screen presence, that have a you want to watch them and you want to watch what they're doing. Like the Cassian Andor, like that actor has that. Like he doesn't have a lot of range of like facial expression, but he's like compelling to look at, and he's very sympathetic. Just on screen, like you're on his side very easily, even when he's doing like really nasty stuff. And so I think his casting works well, but there's a lot of characters I'm just not sure about. But I hope it goes good. And this is crazy because they Andor season 2 is like literally saying this is it, and we're leading right up to Rogue One, like the events and like the characters, situations in where they are is going to lead up right to Rogue One. I hope they don't do that weird connecting thing. That was Rogue One, right? Yeah. That was Rogue One did the connecting thing like right to A New Hope. So I hope they don't do that. They may though, because maybe that's a thing. But yeah. I mean, it looks so good. I mean, I can't believe how well they the art direction and everything on Andor. It looks amazing, and I can't believe they spent more money than that on things like the Acolyte, and had sets that were just garbage, that would just throw away, like cheapy. Let's pull in some boxes and throw some nets over things, and here's our set. Yeah, I can't believe there were so many lame sets in some of the other shows, and they aren't all like to this standard. I guess though they had a real specific look that they were going for because of the time, and some of the other shows are like all over the place as far as locations and stuff. We'll see. That's cool. Yeah, and that's really true, especially for Disney shows. The show's kind of taking their time and building up. And I really like that about the first season, about how much time you spent in the one situation and how it was going to get resolved. That's right, the power of many. Oh my God, yeah. There's been so much bad, and Stephen, like thinking back to the Obi-Wan series and all that stuff. Jeez, and how you had to watch. Speaking about other Disney properties, how you had to watch all that garbage Marvel TV to know who some of the characters were in the new Thunderbolts movie. Just crazy. Crazy. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny. Oh yeah. Oh right, Skeleton Crew. That's funny that they're not going to make any more of that, because that had at least some fun to it. You know, it was the first time that they actually did something that like read as, oh, this could be enjoyable for something other than, you know, nostalgia fans. Oh yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we will see what happened. Yeah, so I guess the other episodes, I haven't been paying attention. I guess there's more Andor up there. I'll have to watch. Yeah, maybe I wasn't in the mood and wanted something a little grittier, but yeah, I just got so yeah, just like I couldn't get into the my mother was drunk at the wedding. Well, I'm not drunk at the wedding. Well, I wish you were drunk at the wedding. Well, I'm going to get drunk at the wedding and dance. And I understand what was going on with the, you know, fun, you know, yeah, I won't spoil anything for people that haven't seen it, but yeah, there was a lot of intense stuff going on underneath it, but yeah, I didn't like it so much. All right. Well, I'll get the keyboard out of the shot, and yeah, so let's do this again sometime. Oh yeah. Red Letter Media said, yeah, if you don't know any of the Thunderbolts characters, it's actually bad. It's probably true, and that's the problem that they're probably getting themselves into, is the more you've seen of these actors, especially the guy that plays Winter Soldier, Bucky. I liked him so much, you know, in the Winter Soldier movies and, you know, his little stuff in all the Marvel movies. But then having to just waste him in that streaming series and bring him back now, it's like, yeah, I don't even care now. That's not an interesting character. Yes, yeah, that's right. She was totally down for her arranged marriage. Mon Mothma's daughter, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't need any of that attention. Sorry, yeah. But all right, yeah. Let's do this again. So, no, let's play some on the channel. Let's play some Star Wars. That might be a good, because the character creation is so fast. That might be a good drop in thing. I'll take a look at for some. You know, real simple, straightforward adventures, and maybe we'll try some of that. Some drop-in Star Wars. But yeah, so everybody, take care, and thanks for watching, and we'll be back again soon. Possibly, I'm not sure actually schedule-wise, Matt, I'll have to, I'll update you, but I'm not sure now about Wednesday night. But Wednesday night would be a fun night to unbox Outgunned Adventure. And Matt's got a huge unboxing of a ton of 80s and 90s RPG stuff. And then we'll do the weekly and hopefully Fallout. Hopefully we'll get back to some Fallout. So everybody take care and see you again soon. Goodbye.